Bonjour from the south of France. You are watching Future Boutique presented by Microsoft. I'm your host, Jeffrey Cologne, from our breezy terrace and noisy terrace studios here on the Croisette in Cannes, France, with my co-host, Steve KEARNS of LinkedIn. How are you?
I'm doing well, Jeff. Very, very glad that this is all happening, that I've experienced this. Can't believe it's coming to a close.
It's been a wild one. It's been interesting in terms of all the activity. We've had very sunny weather, and it's been pretty noisy here too. They keep emptying a lot of these rosé bottles behind us. So if you hear that, that's what that sound is.
Absolutely. It's definitely a place for people to come and not only be inspired, but to have a good time.
Now, it seems like it's a new day for Microsoft. We have taken a different approach this year. What are some things that you've seen that excite you?
Yeah, so I actually just came back from a talk with Kathleen Hall, who's the corporate vice president of advertising for Microsoft. And she had a chat with Common, who, is one of Microsoft's spokespeople. He's an incredible actor, musician, sort of jack of all trades in the entertainment space. And they talked about how Microsoft is really starting to, turn over a new leaf in the amount of freedom it gives its creatives. In its advertising message, I think that's coming through in a lot of the stuff we're doing here and a lot of the stuff that folks are seeing at home. So, Kathleen talked about how she instructs people like Common, but also her own in-house creatives to just go out and have fun and to tinker and to play with things. And I think that's a very modern mindset for a brand that's as strong and as revered as Microsoft. It takes a lot of courage to say, I'm going to let go of the reins a little bit and let these really creative, brilliant individuals start telling stories on behalf of my brand. And I think that's what's starting to emerge here, is this idea of this new Microsoft, this modern Microsoft, telling stories of how technology can help empower people, how it can help cure disease or solve problems in the world that we couldn't have solved 20 years ago. So I think it's a momentous shift, and it's exciting.
Speaking of Common, we have a special surprise for you, so make sure you stay tuned to the end of our episode. But first, we wanted to talk a little bit about Microsoft, where it's going, and it's no better than to talk to Bob Bejan, who's been coming to Cannes probably the longest of those who work at Microsoft. Let's take a look. All right, we're back on the Croisette with someone I love talking to here at Microsoft, one of my favorite people actually, Bob Bejan, General Manager, Global Experiential Marketing, or something that deals with experiential marketing.
Exactly, it's all about the experiences.
And Bob has been, you've been coming to Cannes forever.
Yeah.
So you sort of know, how this place has changed. How has it changed, and what are some of the things that you've seen that are really, exciting you?
Well, I'll tell you, it's been an incredible change. I remember coming here the first time, dating myself now, 1995, and it was a little sleepy creative show. All took place in the Palais, nothing outside at all. A lot of conversation about creativity, which, excitingly, is the thing that's still very much alive and well at Cannes. But the thing that's been so amazing is the migration of the show down the Croisette all the way to these huge kind of, hotels that are now built on the beach. And then I think the other part of it was the digital transformation of this show that really probably started almost, 15 years ago. And it's really kind of transformed this thing into kind of the next generation of media, really led the way and started to kind of this trend of everything becoming a media meeting, everything about advertising and relationships between brands and consumers. So while it's maintained the creativity and the excitement around creativity and a great place to come and see it, it really has evolved into this kind of global media event.
Now, big topic this year. It was bubbling last year. Artificial intelligence seems to almost be everywhere in terms of how it intersects with creativity. What are some other things you're seeing here that you're like, wow, I want to learn a little bit more about that, what companies are doing, some of those topics?
Well, one of the things, I think the thing for me that's maybe one of the most interesting is the rise of data, right? So the last 5 or 6 years, this incredible rise of data and the fear of programmatic buying and the death of advertising and all of this. And what's been so interesting this year is over and over again, the sessions I've been to, talking about the need, in light of all of this onslaught of data and understanding, this return to pure creativity, emotional connection, and great storytelling. And it's very encouraging to me because it's something I've always believed. But it's great to hear kind of the world's pendulum swing back now, kind of against the backdrop of nothing but data, to going, where's the connection? Where's the emotion? Where's the story?
And what are some, what are some things in terms of, storytelling that, that excite you? AR, VR, some new sort of communication methods. What are some things that we definitely see here that we might not see anywhere else that are exciting you?
Well, I think what's interesting for me anyway is this notion of kind of using data and insight to drive creativity, and the breakdown of this kind of, I think, this very false, kind of perception of most creative people that data is the killer of creativity, and I believe just the opposite and always have. So it's great to see that, the way people are using data to kind of create new insights and then develop creative ideas that you just haven't seen before. I think the thing that I find interesting about VR, for example, having been involved with it since kind of like, the 90s, is all the problems are still the same. The technology is so much better than when it was first starting, 92, 93. But the problem is still nobody looks good in a headset. You still get hat hair at the end of it. And, people are still not figuring out, like, what's the story that you build inside that virtual world.
Awesome. Bob Bejan, love the fact that you joined us here on Future Boutique.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I wish the camera was facing the other way, though. It's an incredible view.
And you got your Cannes outfit on as well.
Absolutely. It's very important to do so. Fashion at Cannes, very important.
So Steve and I were just discussing in between some bits here that the Cannes Festival of Creativity isn't just a festival of creativity about advertising or marketing, but also a festival of creativity around music and fashion. And fashion's really interesting because it ties into fashion marketing, which has changed so much in that vertical. What are some of the trends you've seen in terms of fashion marketing over the last year, and how is it so different?
Sure. So first off, I have to back up a little bit and just say Cannes fashion in its entirety is a wild thing in itself. So, when I found out I was going to Cannes, when my coworkers did the same, it's this crazy, scurrying to find linen, to find loud colors, to find florals. It's a wild type of outfit that you can wear to a work event. And as you can see here, a very casual type of outfit that you can wear to a work event. But, really double clicking into this idea of fashion marketing, we're finding that this direct to consumer play is becoming so much larger and so much more prevalent because, people don't need to go to a store anymore and physically try something on or, see a traditional out-of-home advertisement to want to buy something. These brands are figuring out, let's take out the middleman and let's really meet people where they want to be or meet them in a context that feels comfortable. So, Instagram is huge for this. All of the social media platforms where you can now just click on something and buy it. It's a crazy world coming from, the context of 5 or 10 years ago when you had to go to a physical brick and mortar store. So that's a big trend right there. And, you're also starting to see clothing brands and brands in general say, what do we stand for? What is that message or that social good of what is bigger than just selling a pair of jeans or what is bigger than selling a t-shirt? And I think we're finding brands are starting to embrace that, which I think it's great and it's a welcome change.
Speaking of fashion, I was able to sit down with a woman the other day. I consider her sort of a superhero, comic book character, a force of nature, a fashionista. And that's Abigail Posner, who's the director of strategy at Google. So let's take a look at the interview we conducted with her. Our continuing coverage on Future Boutique. I'm joined by one of the brightest strategic minds, a strategic planner, a great speaker, needs to write a book. Google's Abigail Posner. How are you, Abigail?
I'm awesome. Thanks for having me, Jeffrey.
So, I love the fact that you're involved in fashion. You write a fashion blog. You talk a lot about the intersection of fashion and technology. What does that industry vertical really need to be prepared for, since many of those brands are here, as well as their agency representation is here? What kind of advice could you give to that world?
Yeah, well, there is so much change going on in fashion, and in the whole world for that matter, right? Thanks to technology. You can't avoid technology anymore. But technology is our friend. And in fact, in some of the most creative fields like fashion, technology can be an awesome partner to us. And I know there's hesitancy. I feel it amongst my fashion friends. I feel it amongst my clients that, what's happening with something like AI or machine learning? Is it taking over the world? Is it forcing us to be less creative, right? And especially in a world like fashion or like advertising, we're at Cannes, for example, where creativity is king. When you have something like technology that's taking up so much of the headspace, people are nervous. But I'm so excited by what technology can offer, particularly in fashion, because of a few reasons. One is, no question that even though machine learning, which at its core really looks at massive amounts of data, right, and starts showing you themes or trends with data, even though it is highly technical, the creative process doesn't stop there, right? It just starts there. So what it does is it allows us to do all that stuff that we don't normally want to do because it takes so much time. It does it for us, and then we can actually analyze it. So imagine if you could look at all of these trends in a nanosecond. And it's not predictive, but you can start seeing like, ooh, people are starting to get interested in a certain color, or people are starting to get interested in a certain look, or a certain cut, or maybe it's unisex, or maybe it's hypersexual, right? We get a sense of that in such a short amount of time thanks to something like machine learning that can look across so many pieces of data. The other thing that's interesting is that it actually allows us to be more creative in that it can start making permutations for us, right? Before we even know what would sell, what we could do is like, imagine you have, because it analyzes what people do and what people are interested in, imagine it could take certain cuts, certain styles, certain sizes, certain colors, and create thousands of different permutations, offer that back to people, and see what people are interested in, and through that, then designers know what to create and know it will sell, right? I mean, so much lands on the cutting room floor, and we're stuck holding the bag, right? And spending tons of money, investing tons of money in styles that end up failing. In this case, you actually can learn from machine learning and only put out there that which, well, we know will work.
It's funny you bring this up because we're seeing lots of direct-to-consumer Instagram brands, specifically in fashion now, almost trying to use this model where they're not making 1 billion pairs of shoes. They might actually be getting orders and saying, all right, we're going to make 100 of those, and then people are able to actually personalize that, which actually makes me want to ask this question because we both have children, and my kids love stuff personalized now. I'm sure yours do as well.
Absolutely.
How does it change, how does all this machine learning change the personalization game for direct-to-consumer, small fashion brands?
Well, personalization is interesting because on the one hand, I think I know what I like. And like Nike ID, right? Like I can pick this color, I can pick this shape, whatever. But sometimes we don't even know what we like until we see it created for us. We need to be inspired. And so what machine learning can do is not just target you and know exactly what to feature for you, but also sees the patterns of your behavior and says, you know what, she likes this color, she likes this kind of style, she has this kind of attitude, she has this kind of job. Let's create something through all of that data that reflects who she is, and she may not have even designed it herself because she didn't know what to even imagine, and we're imagining it for her. And that's really what fashion is all about. It's about inspiration, about creativity, right? And even if the machine learning creates an algorithm